Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor, and I think this might be one of the first times we're on time regarding actually starting the streaming. So I've managed to get zoomed down, and there's and no messing up in that end. So that's great. So this is the I think fourth episode in the series on the Rings of Power, fifth episode review because the first two episodes were combined and released at the same time. But anyway, so if you like what we're doing here at Plotlines, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Join our Discord, and if you want to support us, please go and if you need a rosary, please go down in the description. Click the link to Bishop Sheen Rosaries and use the code Plotlines10 and get 10% off your purchases. So with me today is Anthony from Avoiding Babylon. He is going to help me discuss the ins and outs of the show, and we're going to basically go through and tell you what we think and where they got things wrong, and basically determine whether or not this is even a good show, and we'll figure that out. Anthony, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Con, man. I know I've been telling you I'm going to come on in the last 2 weeks. A bunch of stuff came up, but thank you for having me.
I know it's a miracle you are here.
Yeah, I worked a night shift last night, and I got home at 6 a.m., and I never get to see my kids in the morning. Usually I leave at 4 a.m. to go to work, and this morning I got home at 6 a.m., so I got to actually see my kids off this morning. So I wound up staying awake until about 8 a.m.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then I was up from 4 a.m. the previous day until 8 a.m. this morning, and then I fell asleep, and I barely woke up on time. So I do have night sleepy eyes still. But I'm here. I did watch the show. We're good.
Well, on that note, I also stayed up till 2:30 a.m. So
is that a regular thing for you?
No, that was not a regular thing.
You go to bed early usually?
Well, not that late. Like midnight is probably on the later side for me. So 2:30 a.m. is pretty late. But yeah, so what part of the show do you think we should talk about? Whose storyline should we talk about first? Which plot line should we follow?
Well, first, what do you think of the show in general so far? Like, how is your perception of the show in general been?
Boring and just kind of forced. It doesn't feel like it would naturally occur.
Doesn't feel like Tolkien at all, right?
Well, yeah, no. I mean, it can't feel like Tolkien because otherwise, there'd be soul in it. Like there'd be heart. Like you'd care about the characters. I don't care about the characters. I'm actually more excited at the threat of them dying than anything else. Because
so, like, who's likable so far? Like I kind of like. Yeah, who do you like so far?
Well, you go tell me who you think is likable.
I'm terrible with names. Who's the elf helping the girl in the tower?
Oh, Arondir.
All right, so I do like him. Right? Like he's a likable character. But when you start getting into Galadriel, they're trying to make her this powerful feminine figure. And when they do that, what they try to do is they give her masculine characteristics. But they're not giving her good masculine characteristics. They're giving her terrible masculine characteristics, right? So it's like, even if she was a man, she would be an unlikable man. And it's to the point where, like, I can't even stand her storyline at all. Like everything she says and does just comes off as obnoxious, rude. She's not likable. She's not nice to anyone. Like there's nothing. She's supposed to be an elf who her character was kind of like the original Galadriel was kind of supposed to be like the Blessed Virgin Mary taken from her, kind of, right? Like this woman is so unlikable.
I mean, I would say Galadriel's like, in the first half of the world, she's kind of more like Eve, and then by the time you see her in the Lord of the Rings, she's more like the Virgin Mary. But so she does have a rebellious streak insofar as she is a bit headstrong in the sense that she knows what she's doing and she wants to rule over a kingdom at the moment. That's
Yeah.
her goals at this time. She still wants to rule, and she wants to sort of, she doesn't feel worthy enough to go to Valinor as a gift, because in the real lore, there's not this thing where it's a gift that the king can bestow upon her to be able to go back or go to Valinor. She can go back anytime she wants. She chose to stay because she thinks she has more work to be done. It's not because of Sauron. It has nothing to do with Sauron.
It has nothing to do with vengeance.
Exactly, that too. It's more about wanting to rule, because her kinsfolk had all ruled in different ways, and she wanted the opportunity to rule a land of her own.
But she makes a very poignant comment in this episode where she's speaking to Isildur and she's explaining what she did, because they keep touching this theme of, in order to see the light, one has to touch the darkness first. And then she explained, which is absurd. She explains to Isildur that her kinsfolk rebelled on her. Her own company rebelled on her, and they actually were going to send her away. And the reason they were going to do it is because they could not tell the difference in her and the evil she was fighting. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, because if you wanted to make her a villain, you'd change nothing about her character. She's a villain.
She's a tyrant.
Yeah.
She is a tyrant in everything she does. It's only when someone above her tells her she can't do something. She's basically like Henry VIII if Henry VIII was a woman.
Or Cersei Lannister.
Yeah, but that's comparing Game of Thrones. We don't want to.
No, but that's the character type she has, and I understand that. But
But even Cersei Lannister, her purpose is that she cares for her family.
Yeah. Where Galadriel, I'm not sure what, like, her whole drive is vengeance.
She doesn't care about anything. At least anything living.
Yeah. No honor. There's no code of conduct for her. There's no higher purpose for her. Her higher purpose is an evil purpose. It's like, the thing about Tolkien was, see, I'm not as entrenched in Tolkien lore as you probably are, right? So all I really know is Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So I never read the Silmarillion. I never read any of the stuff leading up to those. So Isildur in the Lord of the Rings, he's the one who cuts off Sauron's hand to get the ring, right?
Yeah.
So this is a young version of him that we're seeing now.
Well, it shouldn't even be that much younger. It really isn't that much younger, because he it maybe 10 years younger, not even very long, because the Lord of the Rings starts off at the end of the Second Age. Like that's the part that you see in the beginning of the movies is the end of the Second Age.
So it's like I'm trying to like these guys, because everybody came out and they're like, oh, it's woke. So because I don't know the lore as well as good, like, real Tolkien fans. It's like I went into this and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try to set aside all the talk, and I'm gonna just try to see if the show is good. I'm not like, I don't want to hate it just because all of people who are on our side hate it. Like, I don't like being tribal, so I'm trying to go into it with an open mind, and I'm saying I don't mind if there are people of different races playing the characters and stuff. That's not bothering me so much. But the story is, of course, going to matter. And seeing how Galadriel is handling things, like, I just don't understand. Like, Tolkien always used, he said his books were never direct allegory, right? But he used Catholic themes in his stories, and it's like, if you're going to try and present Galadriel as a hero character, as somebody I'm supposed to care for, she should be aiming for these higher goals, and they should be Christian goals. Like, they shouldn't be power, and that seems like what she's going for, power and vengeance. It's kind of warped for me. I'm really not liking her storyline whatsoever.
Darren's in the chat, Max in the chat, and Judith's in the chat, just so you know.
Yeah, I see them.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's definitely odd. So, well, from a Tolkien perspective, this whole mission to the shores of Middle Earth that the Galadriel's trying to get the men to go on to like save the Southlands is what I mean. They're using it in a certain way, but in the books, it is what Farazan says. It's going to lead to basically elves not being powerful, not being influential, because men are going to become powerful.
It's going to become the time of men.
Yeah, because men are going to because basically Farazan's goals are, at this point, it seems like, is to take whatever victory Muriel gets and then pervert it.
Yeah. So now then you have the dwarf and the elf storyline, right? Now, I know in Lord of the Rings, the dwarves and the elves have this enmity between them. And I'm assuming we're going to see this storyline is going to show us where that enmity comes from, because when they give Frodo the elven armor, it's made from that metal that the dwarves are mining right now.
It's actually it's not elven armor, it's dwarven armor. It was given to him by the dwarves.
Oh, the dwarves gave it to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now that, I'm assuming they're trying to set up the storyline of how the elves and the dwarves come to blows, and they don't speak anymore.
See, the thing is, there are elves and dwarves that have a long history of enmity, but Celebrimbor, the character who is the one who's basically mining, like he's the one that had that project that needed to be done. He actually is supposed to get along really well with the dwarves, because he's a specific house of dwarves, or a different specific they're called the Noldor. The Noldor get along really well with the dwarves because they like crafts.
Yeah.
They like to make things with their hands. So Celebrimbor is actually the one who should be more friendly with the dwarves. Elrond is should be more on Gilgalad's side, actually. And Gilgalad shouldn't be such an ass. Like, he is such a manipulative elf, and he is, in Tolkien's lore, this sort of pinnacle of kingship. He is this sort of example of how a good elvish king rules, and he is not he's not trying to, what's the word?
He's sneaky. I mean, this episode he was sneaky, and he was. So this episode he's lying, and he's like he's just manipulative, like you said, So it's like that I think that's what. So these certain things aren't as. So you're way more entrenched in the Tolkien lore, which I just started reading the Silmarillion because of this, because I want to know. Like, I want to know why it's so upsetting to real Tolkien fans, right? So, like, I see some of the people that are writing it, and the first episode, I was like, I don't hate the show. I mean, it's not very interesting. It's a little boring, but I don't hate the show. And then I read a couple of articles from people who really know Tolkien, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can understand why people are really upset with the way they're handling certain characters. The idea of having, I mean, the giant that's with the what are they called? The Harfoots? The Harfoots?
Yeah, the Harfoots.
Like, I mean, that is Gandalf, right?
I can't imagine who else it would be, and if it is, it's the most ridiculous introduction of Gandalf ever.
To have him, the symbolism of a fallen star, like a fallen angel.
Yeah, it makes no sense, because
to have Gandalf, that the symbolism behind that is a fallen angel, right? So like they have this star fall from heaven and land, and that's supposed to be Gandalf, who's supposed to be the greatest, the most,
the greatest angel, basically, that
enters,
that sort of comes to the aid of men and elves in the third age. She never appears in the second age.
Yeah, so they're just kind of throwing him in there because I guess they want to have some characters that everybody go, oh, that's Gandalf. But it's like, I don't know, just some of the imagery and the way that it's almost like if you really look at what they're always trying to do nowadays is they're always trying to flip everything on its head. So they're trying to make, the woman character, and they're like, in a lot of people's minds, Galadriel is a powerful character. She's a woman and she's not taking any, but you called her Mandriel in the green room before me and you were talking. So,
I did, yes. I mean,
yeah,
so Elrond is the herald of the armies of Gil-galad. So everything all the nonsense that is attributed to Galadriel regarding military stuff is Elrond. That is Elrond. Galadriel has a husband, a child, and is basically just sort of hanging around at the moment.
Yeah, and they're making her into this feminazi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're making her this.
But she even hates women.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's what most women do. Like most feminist, I don't mean most women. Most feminist women do.
You hear
it
first here.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that. I mean most feminist women are bitter and angry, right? So that's kind of the portrayal I'm getting from Galadriel, where she's just not even like willing to have just be a decent person. It's like they're not even trying to make her like a noble man. Like I could appreciate that if you're going to try to give a woman male characteristics, at least make her a noble man, So the guy that was on the ship with her, who is he?
Halbrand?
Yeah, so Halbrand.
Totally not Sauron.
You think he's Sauron?
There's no he's the only character at this point that makes sense to be Sauron.
So my cousin called me. We were talking about this, and he said the same thing. He thinks he's Sauron. So he's like, well, look, he's trying to keep in who he is. So he has that fight with those three guys, and then all of a sudden that comes out. Right? In the last episode, he had the street brawl with those three guys, and he wipes the floor with those three guys.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that he would have that kind of abilities, at least physically. Numenorians are much stronger men in themselves.
Yeah, physical strength.
Yes, so they are Numenorians are blessed men. They have longer lives. They have better characteristics. They are basically they just have the graces. They're basically sort of the Israelites in some ways.
I'm just looking at the comments real quick, and Darren is in the comments right now. Red Rover Champ is Darren.
Yeah,
Darren seems like he has a way deeper knowledge of this stuff than I do.
If he wants to come on, he can.
Yeah, Darren, you should definitely come on with Connor one episode. So.
Oh no, just now he can. He could come on now if he wanted.
Darren, do you want to join us? It's Connor's show. I don't want to.
No, I said it first.
Okay.
Not, I get where you're going with it, but I agree.
They're all making fun of me because I'm bringing up my family. I love you guys.
Yeah. Give Darren a moment because of time. But anyways, also, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Nikki Cunningham called Galadriel guy, lad, bro.
Yeah, but that's really what's going on, and it's like they're making her an awful man. I mean, I thought it was so revealing that in this episode she said, "My own people couldn't distinguish me from the evil I was fighting because you're a villain. Well, you're not a good."
She thinks so much like Sauron.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm talking about Halbrand.
And now she's essentially, if this is Sauron, she's essentially helping him to ascend into power. I mean,
that's the thing. So when people started complaining about Galadriel's opinion, Darren's eating.
Okay. Well, come on a future episode, Darren, because you obviously have a way deeper knowledge than I do. So Darren said Aloran was dispatched in the Third Age to combat the threat of Sauron, which was not realized.
That's Gandalf.
Okay,
Aloran is Gandalf.
Aloran is Gandalf?
Yeah.
I did not know that. So
that's his original name.
Which was not realized until he deceived the men of Numenor and convinced them to sail west, something they were forbidden to do. So, Yeah, so I just started reading the Silmarillion because I wanted to know the backstory a little bit. I'm only on, I mean, I just started reading it. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's a very
really the last two chapters are the only things, or the only things that are really covered
relevant
in
to
the
this.
show. Yeah, the Alcalabath, which is the fall of Numenor, and I mean that, it's and then the Rings of Power is the name of the last chapter.
So that's basically what they're trying to
They're combining the
make.
two, even though they don't have the rights to it.
What did they actually get the rights to? The index of character names?
The appendices.
So what is that?
So there's the Hobbit,
right?
there's the Lord of the
Lord of
Rings,
the Rings.
and in the back of the Lord of the Rings, there's sort of there's a timeline.
So
And
that's what they bought.
And little stories. Well, they bought Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but they didn't want to remake something they could not do better. They obviously know they can't do anything better than Peter Jackson.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Peter Jackson is I know a lot of people like Don hated the Lord of the Rings movie. So I watched the movie first and then read the Lord of the Rings. So to me, I think that like because Don read the book first, he was disappointed in the movie. I loved the movie. And then going to read the books were even better. But it was like I still love the movie though. Because Peter Jackson
that's usually how that works.
Yeah, the Peter Jackson at least stuck to like who these characters were in their essence. Like they and if you watch the Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson's version with subtitles on, you'll catch a lot of Tolkien's dialogue that's in the book and like some really powerful things that are still true to Tolkien's intent. Where this, I feel like, is totally flipping it on its head and trying to upend everything like they do with everything now. It's like, I mean, I went and saw they just had a movie come out which was The Green Knight, all right? Was that it? The
Green I never watched that movie, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was
so this is a story.
Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Yes, Sir Gawain. So it's like this is a classic story from the time of like King Arthur, right? This is an ancient story that's always told, and the movie started off really good and I really enjoyed it, and they stuck pretty good to the story of Sir Gawain until the end. And in the end, they did what they do with every movie nowadays, where they have Sir Gawain gives into his temptation. Like it's like they made it like him giving into his temptation was the right thing to do. And in the end, they wind up killing him and making a woman ascend power in his place. And that's what they do with every movie now. They did it with the X-Men movie. Which one was Wolverine? The Wolverine final story of Wolverine, Logan. So at the end of Logan dies and allows this girl who is supposedly his child to now become the new Wolverine. It's like they're just trying to take the character of like the male hero and replace him with a woman now. And that's what they're doing in this too. And they're trying, but they're not good at it.
Well, they're not good writers.
Yeah, but the stories themselves don't make sense.
Well, they can't create anything. They're not very creative people, because if they were creative, they would have made something completely different and it would be entertaining by itself.
Yeah. That's why you're seeing constantly remakes of everything, right? You're seeing
they can't make anything new. It's ridiculous. But anyway, so back to are there any other characters you dislike?
I don't like even what happened with Isildur this episode, where Isildur blows up a boat to get himself into, like they make him do
the
something.
The other guy blew it up.
I thought Isildur did. Oh, the other guy. Oh, I see.
He tried to stop the other guy.
Was trying to stop him from doing. Okay, I must have not thought that properly. So Isildur was trying to stop him, and then he actually saves the guy despite what he did.
Yeah, and he did withhold what had happened.
Yeah. Yeah, like he lied about it. He made it like it was a group of bandits going to do, where that guy was actually trying to prevent them from even going off and going to Middle Earth.
Yeah, which I didn't understand why. I don't understand why Isildur's sister and that guy were basically conspiring to stop them from going. Which I mean, if you make an argument, you can make a good argument why they shouldn't go, but the show didn't make an argument for why
Yeah.
they shouldn't go.
Yeah.
So I'm really confused.
Well,
Especially
even the
since,
queen's father said that all that awaits you there is death, right?
yeah, or darkness or something like that.
Darkness. So it's like, I'm assuming that's because that's the whole idea of that is the path that now that guy is going to become Sauron. He is Sauron in disguise or whatever.
I assume
So
also after this excursion, maybe Muriel won't have any power when she gets back to Numenor.
yeah. So
I
now
think
now in Numenor, these people in Numenor, like I don't know anything about their backstory. Who are they?
okay. So this is getting into the lore. So Elrond, it had a brother. His name was Elros. Both of them were given the opportunity to decide whether or not they wanted to be a man or an elf. And Elrond chose to be an elf, and his brother chose to be a man. And he became the first king of Numenor.
Okay.
And
But now he's mortal though.
Yes, exactly. Because Elrond and Elros were both descendants of both men, elves, and an angel.
Okay.
So
can any elf choose to be a human? Because that happens in the Lord of the Rings too.
Arwen is from the same line.
So she is only because she's from that line, she was able to choose that.
Yeah, because she's the daughter of Elrond, she gets to decide. So all half elven people get to decide unless you're a man or unless you come from a man. Like Elros's line don't get to decide anymore. Okay. But Elrond's line does.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I never knew any of that. See, that's why I think I'm less upset by the show than like diehard Tolkien fans, you know.
Also, what do you think? What do you understand about Elendil's character?
Who's that? Which character is that?
The guy who's leading the military expedition.
That's the guy who blew up the boat, his father, or Isildur's father.
Isildur's father.
I like him.
Well, no. What do you know? What
I don't know anything of his backstory. I just in the show, he's like one of the few people in the show I really like.
No, but even in the show, what do you know about him?
So I just know he comes from a people who still maintain loyalty to the elves, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's about it, though. I don't know much else from the show.
Okay. Well, there's a moment in the show when the queen's like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
She also says they also say that he's like this captain or whatever. Well, he's a lord. He is like her, or he is her cousin. And
she's acting like she doesn't know him.
Yeah.
So she should know him. Like he's a lord of so he's like one of the noble families. So she should know him.
He is a part of the royal bloodline.
Yeah.
Like he is the most beloved of all the nobles in Numenor outside the royal family.
But in the show, he's not.
Yeah, in the show, he's just
he's just some captain of he's just a great captain on the sea. So now he's like, even what they're doing with the Isildur, how he purposely throws the line on the boat like that because he's like a rebellious punk. Like, I don't know. It's like he knows better. Where his father is really trying to teach him, no, you have to go through these. You can't just jump ahead in things. You have to go through the training portion of becoming a man.
Okay, he should be rebellious insofar as he should be rebellious against the leadership of the day.
Yeah.
Because his day is corrupted. Like, the people of his time are very corrupted.
He should be a rad trad.
Yes, basically. He is.
Yeah.
Elendil's family are basically the rad trads.
Yeah.
Muriel's
for
caught in
lack
the
of
middle.
a better term.
Muriel's caught in the middle, and Ar-Pharazôn is a modernist.
Okay. Yeah, that actually puts everything in such a better perspective.
No, it is, because
Using
the
common parlance.
I mean, his themes are the same as the battle within the church is always.
Yeah.
And you could also say just trads. You don't need to actually add the rad. That's just for fun.
Yeah. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. He keeps to they are the sort of the faithful who they don't seem to name or talk really about as if they actually exist in the show. It seems like Elendil is sort of a member of them, but also keeping his distance and that sort of thing.
So Darren's saying
yeah,
Aragorn is a descendant of Elros, and Aragorn married his cousin, first cousin 40 times removed, but still, how could it be a first cousin 40 times removed?
So because the men die out really quickly. Elves don't. Okay. Elves live forever. So by the time
I see what you're saying.
Aragorn was born so far down the line, but Arwen was the daughter of Elrond. So
so they're cousins, but it's 200 years later, or
a couple thousand years later.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, no, it's definitely far down the line, but it's also weird given Aragorn was raised by Elrond as well as like an adopted son, and then marries his daughter.
Now, where is that whole backstory?
That's in the appendices.
That's in the appendices. Okay.
Yeah. So that actually, if you actually read the appendices, there's actually a storyline. Like there's dialogue and everything. Like
so maybe I'll just do that so I have a better understanding of the show.
Well, but that's not even going to give you a great understanding of the show. I mean, in some ways it will, but
it'll show me where the show's going off the rails, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell because it's really just snippets in the appendices. The appendices goes more into detail about the information of the early Third Age, not the Second Age. It only touches on the events of the Second Age.
So this whole show is just making up out of thin air what the Second Age was?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's nowhere in Tolkien's work that actually describes what all the events of the Second Age?
No, there is, but they don't own
snippets. They're not, it's not like a full...
No, there is a detailed account, but they don't own it.
Oh, that's so where is the detailed account? In the Silmarillion. Okay, so I'll find all that out.
That's the last two chapters of the Silmarillion. But what they're trying to do is tell a story within that framework, sort of, if that makes sense.
So now the people up in the tower, the woman's son, is he anybody in that? Like, who is he?
No one.
None of those people, right?
None of those people in that storyline are anyone.
Anywhere. Okay.
I mean, unless they're pulling a fast one and it's somebody else that they just change their backstory or something like that. But there's no elves out in that area making sure people stay good. The men were doing that at this time, like the Numenorians were doing that at this time, but not the elves. The elves weren't out like being this sort of colonial sort of babysitters. Like Numenorians were doing that, and they first came to Numenorians first came to the shores of Middle Earth after the island of Numenor was created for them by the angels and by God himself. And then they can't sail west no matter how many times they say Isildur wants to sail west. That doesn't make sense. You can't. They're banned by God they're banned by the angels from sailing west. So they can only sail east to Middle Earth. And when they did the first time, they came as they came in good natured. They shared what they knew. They helped people. They were good stewards. And then after that, a couple 1,000 years later or so, they came back and they stopped giving and they started taking tribute. They started taxing the
taxing them.
Yeah, they started just making them vassals, basically.
Okay.
Okay. Darren's coming on.
Shoot me a link if you want to show me. If you want me to come on, Darren, I just feel like you'd add so much more to it because Anthony can't forgive anyone for blowing up a boat. Don says.
What?
Don said Anthony can't forgive anyone who blows up a boat. He's making fun of my boat obsession.
You do love your boat.
I do. Darren says the Lord of the Rings of Power have a very small hinting in Lord of the Rings and Silmarillion. It's an untold story. Yeah. So like the only characters I know are ones that are in the Lord of the Rings. So
which
it's
many.
Aren't many. Yeah, it's Isildur, it's Galadriel, and Galadriel in the Lord of the Rings is like this. That's Kate Blanchett's character, right?
Yeah, she's very feminine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like
she's strong, but she's very feminine.
Yeah.
And
so it's
she's just talking to people. She's like she's helping them along. She's not trying to control them. She's not trying to.
But you're saying that actually, even though they're not portraying it correctly in this show, she does have a different, like she had
a rebellious phase. She has a rebellious phase, but it doesn't involve like chopping off like people's heads or it's more of a feminine rebellion. It's making like just decision making instead of like, and maybe temperament a little bit, but she was always wise. She was always smart. She just it's like just because someone sins doesn't mean their personality is completely different. Like they don't
I think Rob described her as like a petulant teenager in the show.
Exactly. Even though she's thousands of years old.
Yeah, she's 1,500 years old and she's acting like a petulant teenager. It's like, I don't think that's an accurate portrayal of her,
Elrond is younger than her. And he is more sort of he sort of holds himself back a bit and at least thinks he should be more rash, if anything.
Yeah. So then what's the other storyline going on? You have
let's talk about the Harfoots and how they don't exist in the Second Age at all.
So aren't these supposed to be like proto hobbits?
Well, the Harfoots are a kind of hobbit. Like they're not proto. So there's 3 different types of hobbits, I think, or 3 or 4 different races of hobbits. And then they intermarry, and then by the time of Lord of the Rings, you can't really tell.
They're all just one. Yeah, they're all just one.
Yeah, there are some that have more like traits of one group or the other group, but the situation is.
So now the Harfoots don't even really exist in the Second Age. You're saying
hobbits don't come along until the Third Age.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea.
They don't, and even then they descend from men. So if you're talking about like really old hobbits, they would actually have probably more men characteristics. They'd be probably a little taller or something. Like they sort of developed into these short people.
Like dwarves. Not dwarves in the show. They're like human dwarves.
I guess in some ways, like in real life. Dwarves.
In real life, human dwarves, like they're just
human dwarves,
and they become a people like that.
They're little people.
Yeah, little people. So
Harfoots,
now that storyline,
Olive hides and stores. Those are the 3. Nikki's helping us out there. Those are the 3 types of hobbits.
Harfoots, Fallow hides and stores. Now, okay, so now you have Nori and the other girl.
You have female Frodo and female Sam.
Right. So now that other friend, Nori's friend, is so androgynous. I thought it was a boy.
Really?
Like I couldn't tell. I like the way they made that character. Like I didn't know. I'm like, I asked my wife, I'm like, is that a boy or a girl? My wife goes, it's a boy. What do you mean? I'm like, I don't think so. I think that's a girl. And then there was something that revealed that it is a girl, like they, he calls her a she at some point, but
it's definitely a girl.
But like they're trying to show her, and like especially in the first episode, like she's supposed to be good, but she's getting the little kids to go and defy their parents and go pick berries, and she's putting them in danger with the wolves. And
I don't like the way hobbits, like they're like the migration of the hobbits and all that stuff is going on. I think that's just kind of it's very annoying. Hey Darren.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, bud?
Good.
Yeah, I feel like
Welcome.
you have way more to add to this conversation than me because I don't know the lore so well. So I'm coming into the show kind of raw, and all I know is the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. I never read the Hobbit. I only read the Lord of the Rings, and I'm kind of like, I don't know what should be more upsetting. Like I see a lot of people getting really upset at certain things that I'm like, oh, I don't know. You know.
Yeah. I've only read the Silmarillion once, about a year ago. So I
It's
need
hard
to
to follow
reread
the
it.
Silmarillion. It's not an easy book to read.
Well, it's
Well,
a
it's like-
patchwork. It's a patchwork of a bunch of different stories.
Yeah, so
like
it's hard to keep it's hard to keep track of all the character names, right? Because it's not like Bob and Joe. It's like these strange names. So it's like I have the same issue with Dostoevsky. So
Well, they're a different
when-
language. Tolkien's
right,
created language is where he's getting the names.
yeah. So, but even when I read Dostoevsky, I have to actually give them American English, like an Anglo names, to keep track of some of them. Because like some of them are just so similar that I forget that, oh, this is a different guy than this. So when I read the Brothers Karamazov, I'm reading it and I'm giving Anglo names to some of the characters to try to keep track of them a little bit better.
Which
So
is
maybe
kind
I
of
might-
funny because the hobbits should actually be more Anglo in nature.
Yeah.
You know, than anybody else. So you should be able to remember them easier than all the others.
Well, I'm only 2 chapters in, so I'm just saying it's a little tricky to.
No,
know,
oh,
to
sorry, I
keep-
was thinking more just the show. But yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, I'm talking the Silmarillion.
Yeah, no, I
no.
get it.
The show I'm fine. Those are pretty easy. You know, Nori and I forget the other girl's name though.
Story.
Mac wants to know how dinner was, Darren.
It's great.
We can't hear you.
You still can't hear me?
Now I can. Now I can.
Okay, yeah. I muted my mic for a little bit so I didn't interrupt your conversation. So
No, we love being interrupted, right, Anthony?
Yeah, interrupt away. It's my whole. That's like what I do. I interrupt
Yeah.
people.
This show is, or this episode is the interrupting show because I have Anthony on.
So
I
what are your thoughts, Darren, on what we've been speaking about so far?
well, I've never actually seen an episode of the show.
Oh, really?
Really? So I'm only providing input.
Back lore.
Yeah,
the lore
I'm
to it.
only
Oh, so you
helping
haven't seen
provide
any
background.
of it?
I haven't seen any of it.
Well, tell
No.
us why
Why
you're
not?
not watching it, so we just know.
Well, for starters, I don't have Amazon Prime,
Oh, okay. There's
so I'm
the
not.
first.
So that's the first obstacle.
If you had it, would you be watching it?
I'd probably watch an episode or two just to kind of check it out.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Like I know a lot of people want to say it's the biggest piece of trash ever. It's not. It's not. I mean, if you try to separate it from being a Tolkien story, it's just kind of a boring show.
I'd like it not to exist, but that's a little different.
Yeah, I have
That
to
makes
finish
sense.
watching it.
I wish it didn't exist, or I wish it was done differently. I wish different people were making it, but I can't control that. So I'm just gonna
finish watching it. I
it.
mean, listen, my wife really likes it. You know, she's the one that's like, my wife is funny because she has such a better grasp of Tolkien than I do. So she's the one popping into my head. She's like, okay, well, that's Gandalf, that's Sauron, that's this one, that's this one. she's
that's the embarrassing part of the show is that everything's so easy to guess, even in but it's so easy to guess when it's not even supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
Like I can guess that that's still Sauron, even though even though Sauron has like nothing to do with that character.
So what's crazy is, other than that one scene where he kind of like, you know, has the fight scene with those 3 guys, like he's a likable character, this guy, right?
That's why he's Sauron.
That's a key component. Until Numenor sinks into the sea, he's fair looking. He's able to like whisper really sweet things into the ears of men. He convinces the kings to try to sell west, and that the gods are actually against them, and that they need to rebel against them.
And that God doesn't exist.
Right. And so until Numenor sinks in the sea, after Numenor sinks in the sea, then his like veil is kind of like ripped from him, and then he's not able to really able to sweet talk men again. And that's when he kind of creates the rings and kind of deceives them. That's his last deception.
Well, the rings come first, though. That's the
Do they
thing.
come first?
Yeah, they come first. This whole thing is backwards. He should be manipulating the Celebrimbor right now, not manipulating men.
So
It's so weird. So Sauron starts off by manipulating the elves because he needs to get the elves to be weak first, because he needs men to be able to need to fill a vacuum. And until the elves are weak, men have no reason to fill a vacuum. But once men fill a
So-
vacuum, he can use that to his advantage.
it's easier to corrupt the hearts of men than it is to corrupt the hearts of elves.
Of course, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, I would say he doesn't even really accomplish corrupting the hearts of elves. He can get them to do things, but in the end, they don't fall for his trap fully.
Now,
Yeah.
now we're in the wasn't it in the beginning like the elves kind of saw Sauron as kind of like a someone to help them with Morgoth, right? Like Morgoth kind of corrupted him.
Yeah, but he fought. He fought the elves.
Yeah, but but originally he was there to help, kind of like he was just a little easier to corrupt. He's kind of like
He was corrupted before they met him. The elves never knew him before he was
corrupt. Okay.
or before he was bad.
Okay.
Anthony wants to put the
No,
comments
Don's
on-
comment was so funny.
What is it?
When I said Anglo names, Don says Anglo names like Don, Joey, and Mikey.
No,
Those are all my
Dom,
brothers.
not Don.
Don said Anglo names like Dom, Joey, and Mikey. So
Sounds
those,
very
they're
Italian.
not Anglo, they're Italian. He was making fun of me.
Yeah.
So
Gotta love Don. But yeah, no, so it seems really out of place unless they're gonna go where, okay, Halbrand goes to the land of basically Halbrand will lead them to his lands, quote unquote his lands. They will basically sort of win in some ways, sort of not, maybe, I don't know. And then I'm guessing Halbrand will then disappear up into Elvish territory and start working with Celebrimbor.
So
And
who
then
is
he'll
this?
go back.
Who is this? Who is the guy leading the orcs right now?
Beats me.
We don't know who he is. I mean, is he
Looks
an
like a
elf?
dark. He looks like a dark elf to me.
Right,
But
because
there-
he's able to go in the sun. And then this episode, he said that he's enjoying the sun because before long he won't be able to enjoy its warmth anymore. So is that because he's being corrupted and
no,
he's
that's
becoming an orc?
I think that's because he's foreshadowing Sauron's return, and whenever Sauron sort of returns, he creates a shadow that
over the whole sky.
that blocks parts of the sun from shining.
Which is why in the Lord of the Rings the orcs are able to fight in daytime.
Yeah.
Because the whole sky is darkened.
Yeah, except for the Uruk-hai. The Uruk-hai can run in daytime under the sun as well, because they're a combination of men and elves. They're a perversion of men more than they are of elves.
So is that what this guy is, you think?
No, he's a dark elf.
So I don't even know what dark elves are.
Dark elves are just the elves that have not seen the light of Valinor, the light of the two trees.
Okay.
Which basically means, okay, so like there are still some like Legolas is a dark elf, technically speaking. But he grew up amongst, or he was led, his people were led by somebody who had seen the light of the trees. Dark elf doesn't mean you're evil or anything. It just means that you chose not to
Travel all the way west.
Yeah, travel west to see the two trees. You
Yeah.
remained in Middle Earth and you know nothing else. And you haven't been, you haven't been tutored by the angels, by the Valar.
So now in the episode where I guess that's the first episode where they're bringing Galadriel on that boat, Are they going west towards the trees?
The trees are gone.
The trees are gone.
Yeah. The
Okay,
light.
so
Yeah.
are they bringing her to the land where they're bringing Bilbo at the end of the Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
which is basically like their heaven?
No, it's not heaven. It's more like
And-
it's just where it's the land of the deathless. It's where a lot of
where
the
their
elves
souls go to
live.
be immortal, isn't it? Like their souls don't live on?
No, they don't go to be immortal. This is actually a line from the Silmarillion. It's the land does not make the people deathless. The deathless just live there.
Oh, so then how is Bilbo going there?
Oh, he's
Because
just
he
gonna
had
go
learning.
there and die.
Oh,
He'll die still. Frodo will
Okay.
die. Sam will die. Gimli will die. Like they're
so he
all
just
of,
wanted to see that land, I guess.
well, they will. No, they can heal him. They can heal the wounds that the ring created.
Okay.
That is the only purpose. Or that is the
Is
main
there a
purpose.
heaven in Tolkien's world?
Okay, so there are what's known as the Halls of Mandos, which is where everyone goes first, and it's where the elves stay when they die. Die, quote unquote, die, because they don't really die. But if they're slain in battle, they go to the Halls of Mandos. And then men, the whole thing is that nobody knows what happens to men except for that they're released out of the world.
Because they're the second children of Iluvatar. Yeah.
So they go outside the rings of the world, which means they are not bound by this world that we live in. So
Right.
heaven.
So it's a great mystery to the elves. Like it was a great mystery to the elves when they discovered men because they died. They're like, what
Yes.
is this?
Yeah.
How
And
did
it's
that
also a
happen?
great mystery to men too, because they fear it, or first they accept it, and then they begin to fear it as they become jealous of the elves. And that's really what the point of like Numenorians not liking elves is they're supposed to be jealous of them for being
Because they're immortal.
immortal, not something about them stealing their jobs.
That
actually, Darren,
I'm
that
actually
happens
so
in-
glad we're doing this because you guys are giving me such a good like understanding of the backstory. Like I just, it's like it's these
and this
little
is good for
things
me
that,
and everyone else. Also,
yeah, but it's
guys,
like,
if you're watching this, please press the like button.
yeah, you guys
We
come
only
on.
have one like.
That's me.
So no one liked
come
it.
on, guys, hit
just
like.
Anthony.
Yeah,
But yeah.
this is giving me like a better understanding of like what like how they're corrupting the actual story, you know. So it's it's kind of sad, you know. And I maybe in some ways I was better off going in with ignorance because ignorance is bliss in this situation. It's like I could see why it's more frustrating for like diehard Tolkien fans.
Well, ignorance is always bliss in some ways, but the only problem is it's bliss insofar as you don't know what good is.
Yeah.
And when you know what good is, you know it's basically the Adam and Eve before the fall. They didn't eat from the tree of good and evil. So they couldn't necessarily distinguish, but they also never experienced evil, so they didn't need to. But for us, we need to know the difference between good and evil because we experience evil all the time.
Yeah, to avoid it.
And we need to avoid it. So it's kind of interesting in that. But yeah. So I'm trying to think.
How did Jason what did Jason think of the show?
He's kind of in the same area as you are, I think, being okay with it because I don't think he's read it.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, it's a very different thing for people who don't know the Tolkien lore than it is for the diehards, you know. But it's also making me want to continue reading the Silmarillion now, and I can't wait to get to the last two chapters.
Yeah. So okay. So
can you read the last two chapters out of context because of the way Silmarillion's written?
Probably. Don't you, Darren? Do you think you could? I feel like you can.
Say that again.
Can I read the last two chapters of the Silmarillion out of context? Because the way Silmarillion's written, it's not a
Oh yeah,
novel.
I think you could. I'm trying to think. I think there might be a little bit like you're going to miss a lot about the. I mean, again, you're going to miss a lot about the Silmarils, which are basically Silmarils. I mispronounce it. That's all right. But they're basically like three beautiful like stones or vials that imitate the light of the trees. Basically,
Yeah, they hold the remaining light of the trees.
They're incredibly beautiful. So when they get lost or when they get found, like when Numenor goes under and a big swath of I can't remember what the name of the land is called, that's even west of the Shire, it gets lost in the sea and all that kind of stuff. Like you might be a little lost with that, but otherwise, you could probably skip ahead and read some of that to get a better understanding of what's going on in the story that you're at now.
All right, so now, Connor, in the show, the whole idea of the mithril, that's the rock they're mining. The dwarves, right?
Well, okay. Well, let's get to that. We're talking about Gil-galad and the dwarves and all that stuff. But I wanted to read the poem of Gil-galad because I just want to talk about how like he's being perverted so much by this story. So
now Gil-galad is Isildur's father?
No, Isildur's father is a star now.
Wait. Isildur's father is the captain of the ship.
No, he's a star. Now he's a star in the skies, actually, above Numenor, or not Numenor, above Valinor. Like he's in Valinor.
All right,
as
so
like a star.
Who are you saying they're corrupting the king, the Elven King?
Yeah, the king.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So here's the song. Hold on. Gil-galad was an Elven king. Of him the harpers sadly sing. The last whose realm was fair and free between the mountains and the sea. His sword was long, his lance was keen. His shining helm afar was seen. The countless stars of heaven's field were mirrored in his silver shield. But long ago he rode away, and where he dwelleth none can say. For into darkness fell his star in Mordor, where the shadows are. So he is Gil-galad was the leader of the White Council before
the High King.
Yeah, he's the High King, and he was the head of the White Council. Do you remember the White Council from the Lord of the Rings, Anthony?
Yeah.
Saruman,
Galadriel, Elrond, who else?
He was the king that kind of helped bring the men and elves together to fight Sauron.
Yeah, he is basically a uniter of peoples. He is not this dividing, sly hypocrite. Also, his plan literally makes sense.
Sending in his people to undermine, and
his plan doesn't make sense. He sent his warriors away when he even knew that Sauron was coming back. He admitted in this last episode that he basically knew that darkness was falling upon the elves, and they need all the help they can get. Yet he purposely sent away his warriors, even though Galadriel shouldn't be one of them. He sent them away so they wouldn't create trouble.
Yeah.
So
what's going on with this tree now? So now you have.
Oh yeah. Okay. So Darren will get a kick out of this, I think. So I'll just explain it to Darren first. So in this show, they basically have set it up where an elf fought a Balrog, and in that battle, a tree that still had a Silmaril, which the Silmarillions are all destroyed. So that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, one sank into the sea, one was set in the stars, the other one was like just devoured, basically. Yeah.
I thought one was dropped into like a giant hole, like into a cavern.
Yeah, I think like one was one got lost into the sea, one was set in the stars, and one lost in a cavern. Yeah.
Yeah, one dropped.
There were three of them. Yeah.
Yeah, but this apparently one of them ended up into a tree for some reason. And in this battle, they
didn't burn it.
The Balrog, it didn't burn it for some reason. The Balrog, the Silmarils, I believe, if they're touched by unworthy hands, they like burn them.
Yeah, well, that's
So
the
it's
story
like
of.
it's like when somebody touches the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, well, that's the story of Luthien and
Baron.
Baron. Yeah, Baron touches it and he like loses his arm because of it.
No, that's because
He holds it and then the warg bites it off. That's right.
Well, it's not
not a
warg,
warg, but it's a giant. It is a giant wolf, though.
What is it? Yeah, it's a giant werewolf, I think.
Yeah, it's Morgoth's pet.
Direwolf.
No, like it's good one. Game of Thrones references.
Talking about Cersei.
It's Morgoth's pet.
Yeah, Morgoth. Well, Sauron's pet, actually, I think. Yeah. Oh no,
it was.
I thought it was Sauron. Never mind. No, it's Morgoth. It's complicated. It's hard to keep these because Baron and Luthien has a lot to do with Sauron as well, just as much as it does have to do with Morgoth. But anyways, so there's somehow Silmaril got stuck in a tree, and a noble elf who had basically the valor of Manwë. That's how they describe it, which is incredible, to say the least. Which I guess you could have said this was. So basically, they used who's the elf that helps Frodo escape the ring wraiths in the books?
Gosh, I was just reading this. Starts with a G. Gilchrist. No, that's not right.
See what I mean? The names. If they just gave them some Anglo names, some Italian names, you'd remember them.
Whatever the golden
Gildor.
flower. What is it?
Gildor and Glorian.
No, that's not. It's not Gildor.
No, Gildor beats Frodo at the edge of the Shire and helps him.
Yeah, but this is a different one.
This is the nerdiest conversation ever. I love it.
This is later in the book.
Well, you said helped him escape the Black Riders. Gildor. Yeah, you mean later?
Yeah, I mean later, but
you mean later whenever they're on Weathertop.
Yes, or after that, a little after.
Yeah, because unlike the movie, it is not actually.
It's not Arwen.
Arwen, yeah, it's Glorfindel. So it's actually her brother.
No, Glorfindel's not related to her.
What?
Yeah, nope. Don says it's Glorfindel.
Yeah, Glorfindel, but they're not related because Glorfindel is totally different. Elordan and Elor here are Arwen's siblings.
Yeah, it's all. That's right. It's all alliteration, right?
Exactly.
Nikki Cunningham says, I love the part where the orcs attack Galadriel and scream, "This is Mordor country."
That's hilarious.
That's great. Anyways, so Glorfindel. Anyway, so you know how Glorfindel fights the Balrog?
Okay.
Anyways, and then dies. Anyways, basically, it's like Glorfindel fighting the Balrog. That's sort of what they set it up. And basically, the battle creates Mithril, and basically brings the leftover like beauty and energy or whatever of the Silmaril. It puts it into the ground, and it creates the metal.
So now that's not part of the book. That's just in the show.
That's made up.
That's completely made up.
Yeah,
that's completely made up.
Mithril is like platinum.
Yeah, but they're in the show. They're trying to present it like it still has like the glow that can keep the elves.
Yeah, basically, Darren, the plot is at the moment is
I know.
It's sort of like the butchering of the Hobbit movies. Did you see the butchering of the Hobbit movies?
I could not watch those.
Okay. Anyways, in that Thranduil is like obsessed with gems, for no apparent reason, and then except for supposedly it may have come from his wife and that was her gems, but that's also not in the books. Anyways, Gil-galad is obsessed now with getting Mithril, which is basically at this point in the story, it's like obsessed with the Silmaril. Which is still a little bit. I mean, it would make sense that an elf would be obsessed with
if that's what they're going with. But elves don't have any like envy of like possession. It's only the only thing that they've ever envied for possession was the similar.
Silmaril.
Silmarils.
Those pretty things, and and once they're destroyed, it kind of like that's kind of what causes them to actually causes them to fight with each other.
Yeah,
It's kind of a civil war.
Yeah, the Silmarils create civil war, but with them gone, there's nothing to fight over.
Yeah.
Anyways, so basically the premise is that Gil-galad and the other elves are dying, like and they mean dying, not like
become mortal dying.
Yeah, basically becoming mortal, like their souls disappear, which is crazy. If they're not exposed to the light of the trees anymore,
which is just a made up portion of the myth.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
the elves don't need the light of the trees to live.
Well, there's dark elves, and they live just fine.
We just and then there's dark elf in the show.
No.
And he shouldn't be alive if this logic was real.
I mean, honestly, if that logic was real, what was it? Finrod or whatever, whoever created the Silmarils would have never been able to leave and go back to Middle Earth. I mean, because he would, because he would have never been able to withstand. Like, it would have been too painful for him to like leave the light of the trees, basically.
Well, but the light of the trees were destroyed by that point.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess so. Anyways, but it's just it's creating basically
so what
this
is corrupting
divide.
This tree though? Is it Sauron? Is Sauron coming back? Is that what's corrupting the tree?
Oh, I have no idea. Also, yeah, Darren, the trees are dying because the elves' power is going away. So they're taking this.
Which again, they're not even connected.
They're taking this from the Lord of the Rings, where as they fade from the world, their realms die out. Okay, and like Lorien dies out, like all the trees die eventually. But that's because the rings are keeping them, are empowering them to hold back the decline of the elves. But the rings haven't been made yet, so the logic there doesn't make any sense. If what's keeping the trees and everything alive is dying, it doesn't work with the continuity of in the future.
So now in the show, the rings haven't been created yet, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to follow it all, and it just seems to be like kind of plotless. It's irony for being on Plotlines.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
watching a plotless story.
on Plotlines, we discuss how we discuss things that don't always have plot in it because they fail. Critiquing things that have that don't do plot very well is an element, I would say. Oh, Nikki subscribed. Thank you, Nikki. But yeah, so that's kind of bonkers, I would say. It's creating enmity between the dwarves and the elves, even though dwarves and elves, at least the Doran's folk and the elves of the Noldor, don't have any enmity. The ones that have enmity are Celeborn. Celeborn, Galadriel's husband, is the one who has enmity with the dwarves.
So in the Lord of the Rings movie, they show Legolas and what's his name, like always going at it, and they're always in competition. Gimli, yeah. So I thought that there was more to that.
Oh, there is. There's a long history between those kinds of elves and dwarves. It's just that the elves that we're looking at, all the elves in the story, except for Eredon, Arondir, Arondir, that's what it's the black elf, basically. He's the only one that should have enmity with the dwarves. The other ones should not have enmity specifically with the dwarves.
So I thought they were trying to build up to show that the Dude, I'm so bad with their names. But the elf and the dwarf that are friends, and they make the vow together.
Elrond and
Now,
Doran, yeah.
there you go, Elrond and Doran. I thought they were going to make it where Elrond breaks his vow and tells them, and that's where that enmity starts. I thought that's what they were going for, but then he winds up talking to him at the end of the episode.
Durin, if you should be able to recognize that name. Durin is the dwarf that doesn't he create the mines of Moria?
Well, there are tons of Dorans.
Oh, are they okay? Well, apparently it's a very popular dwarf
it is
name.
like it is the most popular because he's the prince. Durin is the prince, so he is he's going to inherit the kingdom of Khazad-dûm.
Yeah, but like yeah. So the Khazad-dûm is already there, but like remember like the whole elf like the wording outside the door was enter friend.
Yes,
like
elf
elvish,
friend.
right?
Yeah, it was the elf. So basically, that entry to Khazad-dûm to Moria is actually an example of their previous friendship, not their previous enmity.
Right.
And that friendship was between Celebrimbor, the guy who's the craftsman dwarf or craftsman elf, and between the dwarves. It has nothing to do with Elrond, which is funny that Elrond is basically taking Celebrimbor's job.
Well, he's a better known character to most.
Yeah, that's why.
People.
But
it's like, why not introduce somebody new?
Oh, yeah. Does Nikki is asking Darren if Tolkien ever explained what happened to Ungoliant?
Ungoliant.
Didn't she eat herself to death? Basically, she ate the giant spider that helped kill the trees in the beginning. She basically kills herself because she has such lust for light, and then she basically dies of I think consuming herself basically.
She said all Durins are reincarnated versions of the first Durin, so there's only supposed to be one Durin alive at a time.
That's like a folklore of Lord of that's internal folklore. That's not actually real. That's like Tolkien says that as if it's like something that the dwarves say but isn't probably real. It's like fake history. They believe that like the Durins like reincarnated, but that's not true because there's another Durin that takes over as king under the mountain after the Lord of the Rings. So I don't think that's true. I think that's more just what the dwarves say about their history because it sounds cool and they wish that's the way it was. But really, dwarves are more like humans than they are like elves. They don't really have that incarnation or reincarnation.
What predictions do you have for the show, Connor? Besides Sauron being who he is and Gandalf.
I don't know what's going on with Gandalf and the ability to like ice things and like not being able to control himself. That really doesn't make any sense.
So is there any backstory to Gandalf's origins in the Lord of the Rings?
Not in the books. Not in Lord of the Rings books, like not in the appendices. Except for that he arrives on a ship in the Third Age with the other wizards. Círdan, or is it Círdan or Gil-galad? Gil-galad gives him his ring, I believe.
And now who was it at the end of the episode that goes to the place where Gandalf, who we think is Gandalf, where he landed? Remember, like at the end of the episode, they showed where Gandalf landed, and then they show what looks like maybe like Saruman almost.
Sauron might be bilocating. That's kind of my guess. Like Sauron might be able to be multiple places at once.
He is?
I'm saying that might be what they're going for.
because something goes there, but he has the white hair and he looks like the Saruman, not Sauron.
But that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It still wouldn't make any sense. Any of that would not make sense. It's possible, but they're too young. All of these people, all of the wizards arrived looking old. Those people look way too young. And that actually looks more like Sauron, I would have thought, though kind of weird looking. These people don't look like they're real people. They look like they're like they're what emo or that emo people think good looking people look like.
Yeah, that's actually a really funny
they don't actually look
description.
good or you know, they just look weird. Oh, and if anybody is interested and wants to catch up, in the description there's a playlist for all the other episodes in this series, so you can we talk about all the other episodes. This is only the latest episode. And also, just so you know, next week around the same time there'll be the next review show. And so I have a bunch of different people come on and discuss the different episodes. Darren's the first one that's been on that didn't actually watch the show, which is actually, I mean, it could be pretty good if I just every episode just explained what happened to Darren and he just lost
so he
his
could
mind
get outraged by how they're destroying the story.
by how terrible it is. Because it just wouldn't. It's not comprehensible. It doesn't make any sense. So Darren's just gonna be like, "What? Wait, why? Like, what? What are they doing?"
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, this whole thing with the mithril is kind of annoying me. You know.
So predictions, I guess. Gilgalad needs to fight. I guess the dwarves and the elves need to fight, sort of to keep themselves busy, while all the other stuff happens in the south. I'm guessing that Galadriel and Muriel will sort of win, sort of, in the south, but it will come at a price, and Pharazôn will eventually rise in power in Numenor, and then maybe Halbrand will then go off and help the elves make the rings, and then the elven rings will basically they'll basically resolve the plot between the dwarves and the elves by making the rings so the elves can stay alive, basically, and that the rings are going to be probably made out of mithril or something. I could see that happening, that at least Galadriel's ring, I think it's Narya.
Well, let's hope that they give the rings to the right people.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I don't understand how Galadriel's gonna get it if she's completely off doing war business everywhere.
So
I
believe the elves that were given the rings, one was Galadriel, one was Elrond, and the other one was the
Gilgalad had one. No, it was Círdan. The first ones that had it, I think, were Círdan, Gilgalad, and Galadriel. I don't think Elrond took the one.
What happens to all those other rings?
Well, okay, so the dwarves get them, and then they slowly get eaten by dragons.
Yeah, 4 of them are lost forever because they're devoured by dragons. Gandalf explains this in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, and then I'm guessing we haven't. The Nazgul are the men that get the rings.
Yeah,
so
they're the ring race. So they're kind of undead because the power of the ring is so fully corrupted them that Sauron can basically keep them in their service forever.
And they're powerful kings kings and sorcerers from old.
The Witch King of
Angmar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is the leader. He is the leader of the Nazgul.
Which gets confusing in the movies because the burrow downs are really important. Like the knives that the hobbits get in the burrow downs is actually really integral to the plot and taking down.
Yeah, that's why Merry's able to help kill the Witch King. It's funny. A lot of people just think of Éowyn being the one who killed the Witch King, but it was a combination of her and Merry.
Merry's knife actually breaks the spell.
Yeah,
that
Mary
allows him
is
to
the
be.
one that really kills the Witch King in some ways. So that whole feminist thing, not really true.
I mean,
It's
I mean,
kind of true, but not really.
there's some of it, like the whole idea of like, I'm not a man. Like, it's enough to like really make him stop and stutter and be like, wait a sec, because there is a whole prophecy of like a man won't kill him, and so like she reveals that she's not a man, and he's like just kind of taken aback, like what the hell.
And the thing is that Mary's not a man in the strictest sense either.
Correct.
He's a hobbit. He's a halfling. So
it's kind of like these divergent kind of.
Yeah. So and also it's funny because the killing of the Witch King breaks the spell of feminism on Éowyn. Éowyn then no longer wants to be a warrior and no longer seeks death. She then wants to go marry the steward of Gondor.
Faramir.
Yep. So anyways, it's just kind of interesting. Like they use these different things for their own agenda, but they're just missing the point.
I'm tired of watching shows with an agenda. Like, just tell a good story.
Well, they don't know how to tell a good story. Let's think. Did we miss any of the storylines? I feel like there must be something we missed. I mean, Arondir. Oh, okay. So the Southland people, half of them join Sauron, or sort of. I don't know.
Well,
join the Dark Elf, who is kind of mad that they bring up Sauron, which doesn't.
Yeah, I was
really
going to ask you, like,
sense.
what do you think? Is he like jealous of Sauron? Like, it's like the guy says he'll serve Sauron, and then he's like mad at him. It's like a weird scene.
I don't know. Maybe he's just torturing them because he's just like he's breaking their spirit, even though he broke their spirit already. Like, maybe he's trying to get them to be easy to control.
Yeah.
And since he's not Sauron, maybe he just has to make sure that they still have a reason to fear him, I guess. Because if he says, "Oh no, I'm not Sauron," I guess they'd kind of be like, "Then why are we like listening to you?" Like they thought it was Sauron. It's not. At least not from what we know. But he is still seeming like a servant of Sauron, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. What are your predictions? What, based on the show, where do you think things are going?
I mean, I think we kind of addressed where, like, who's who and stuff, so, but I would think that what you said about of Galadriel's storyline, them taking all the people of Numenor, and that will eventually lead to the rise of Sauron. That guy is obviously Sauron, and he's playing it off. It's just weird, like, because if he is Sauron, like, what he's making it like the whole idea of him saying, "Go find another head to crown," and like it's not obvious he's Sauron. I know why you think he is, and I think he is too, but it's not that obvious. Like he's not.
He's manipulative, and they don't want people to know it's Sauron right off the bat. Even though the entire internet already thinks that he is.
When you read him, and if you've read the Lord of the Rings first, you almost get the hint that he's kind of like a more pleasant Wormtongue, like for the kings of Numenor.
So, yeah, that's a good point. He is kind of Wormtongue, but
just whispering in their ears and giving them advice.
Do you want to know what position Pharazôn has right now, Darren?
Go ahead.
He's a chancellor.
Now, who's Pharazôn again?
Oh, okay. He's the one that steals the crown and threatens Sauron's domains, and then Sauron becomes his advisor.
Okay.
Yeah. But currently he's sort of he's towing the line between the different like factions at the moment. He's trying to be like the populist character.
Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to bring a lot of contemporary politics into the show.
Yeah, Farazan is Trump. Basically, that's what they want you to believe.
Okay.
Oh, really? You think so? That's what you're getting from it?
He said, "I'm going to make sure this Numenor is still is forever a kingdom of men."
Yeah.
After
Make
saying
Numenor
that,
great again,
after
huh?
saying, I won't, basically, I won't let the elves take your jobs.
Yeah.
Which one elf
everything has
shows
to
up.
be viewed through a modern lens now. It's so annoying.
One elf shows up, and the
He took
people
our
immediately go
jobs.
to, they're trying to steal our jobs.
I think Nikki made that joke. She said, they took her jobs.
The what?
Nah, it's a South Park reference. Never mind.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so I don't know. Darren, just based on what we've told you about the show, what do you think?
I don't know. I might be interested in looking at it just to. I mean, it sounds like they're trying to create. It sounds like they're trying to create their own mythos, but I mean, the issue is that they're obviously like they're corrupting the original text to do it. They're not being true to the original in order to try to create that. But eventually, they're going to have to marry it back up to the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings stuff, because you can't it has to come back like somehow.
Nikki says, "Make Numenor great
Numenor
again."
great.
That was actually the name of the previous review episode that I did. I named it "Make Numenor Great Again," because that's when that was the last episode was the one where that speech comes from.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean I think we sort of got it down. Basically,
we covered everything.
the Southland people are currently being sieged out by the forces of Sauron. Yeah, Nikki's great. Nikki, you'd be great watching Avoiding Babylon if you're interested. You'd probably fit
yeah,
in.
Nikki, you gotta come and hang for a trivia show.
Yeah,
You
Anthony.
fit right in.
Anthony runs a trivia show on Avoiding Babylon. Anyways,
It's very chat based, and these little lines you throw in we'll throw up on screen, and we expect our audience to make fun of us.
Yeah,
you would fit right in.
My setup, I can't throw them on screen, but Anthony's setup when in his show, he throws them up on screen, so you really participate in the actual episode. Anyways, so basically, but yeah, so I don't know. I don't get Arwen's position and Farazan's son's position. I don't get what they're doing. I don't know what side they're on. It doesn't make any sense. They want to stop them from going east. They want to stop the men from going east. I don't know. Anyways, the Southland people are under siege. It's basically Helm's Deep all over again. They have a tower. They're stuck in that tower.
I think I remember when the Numenorians kind of come, like the Southland people are a little bit unkept and are almost in need of a king and leadership, right?
Yeah, and that is kind of what's the setup for them right now.
Yeah, that they're kind of gonna be dispersed and kind of like unkinged.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that's kind of the setup. The dwarves and the elves are sort of working together, but also I think there's going to be more tension there. They just want to have tension because they need people. They want people distracted, or they need the elves and the dwarves to be distracted so the men can become powerful, I guess. So their version of getting men the upper hand or getting them to become powerful, like they are around the downfall of Numenor, is by having the dwarves and the elves being petty. That's what it kind of seems. Anyways, so Anthony, anything to wrap it up?
No, I think we covered everything, right?
Awesome. Okay. Well, if there's something you want us to cover, please let us know in the description or in the comments section. Please, again, like, share, and subscribe. Share it with anybody that you think would be interested and would be interested in hearing our perspective. So all three of us are often on the Avoiding Babylon game show. So Darren's the whiz, as you can see from just this episode. Whiz at everything.
Darren's like a wealth of knowledge. So yeah, it's every Wednesday night. We do it on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 7 Central. So if you guys have time, go to Avoiding Babylon on Wednesday nights. We do a bunch of other stuff on the channel too, but that is our flagship show. We try to get special guests every time. The last episode, we had Jeremy McClellan, the comedian, on, and a lot of people have been telling me that was one of our funniest shows. I got a lot of good feedback on that one.
This upcoming episode, we have a guest trivia master, so it's supposed to be better than most.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be efficiently run.
Jake from Mass of the Ages is going to be asking the questions. Darren will be keeping score. I will still pick the winner though. So tune in Wednesday night.
Lame.
No,
anyways,
I will pick the chat
also,
winner.
if you haven't checked it out, I did an episode with Vonday Radio about the Queen and Charles III. And then next week, I'm having Enoch, the rapper, on to talk about his music and stuff like that. So if you're interested, that will be later next week, probably either released on Tuesday or middle of Wednesday kind of thing. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Thanks for having me on, Connor.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Thanks for coming on too.
Yeah. I haven't even seen the show. I still don't know what we're talking about.
I know that